Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this presentation, the campaign to save Harold's House. I'm Deborah Tyson. I'm from the Corona East Elmhurst Historic Preservation Society, and I'm so glad that you could be here to help us save Harold's House. First of all, let me tell you a little bit about who we are. Our acronym is CHEAPS. You see this long name on the board, Corona East Elmhurst Historic Preservation Society, and we like to, a lot of people just refer to us as CHEAPS. That's the easiest way to remember us, or sometimes they'll call us the Society. Anyway, we are in Queens. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Flushing, Queens, or in Queens. Okay, we do have some people who've been out in Queens. And so Harold, we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, Historical Preservation Society, and we are charged with promoting, protecting, and preserving the historic homes and residences in the area. And what is particular about our organization, unlike some of the areas in Manhattan and Brooklyn, in Queens, we don't have a large number of huge buildings or, that look like palaces or castles. We have a few that look like castles, actually, in some parts of the area. We do. In Mary Elena's area, she has, in her organization, she does actually have some very historic buildings. But we like to think of ours as historic too, but ours particularly fall under the category we're learning of cultural significance. And that was a pretty new term for us. And we ran into that when we were going into battle with LPC. For those of you who don't know, Landmarks Preservation Commission. And I was one of the people who was going back and forth with them. I thought I'd be really organized, have everything, all the I's dotted, all the T's crossed. Oh, we have all of these wonderful buildings. We have these individuals of distinction who have lived here. And we want to have this landmarked so that the whole future generations could know of the greatness of the area and who lived there and so on and so on. So they said, okay, well, please, fill out the form, the request for evaluation. And so everything, we made sure we had pictures, everything. They send us all these rejection letters. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not architecturally significant. I said, what? What does that mean? Architecturally significant? I said, this is Queens. I said, what are they architecturally significant compared to what? Compared to what? What are they comparing? What are they comparing the architectural significance to? So I am not an architect, so I didn't know. I was just really in shock. So they said, no, we just have to find another angle. So they said, oh, well, give us a deed, give us all this. So we, went back, our researchers went back and they got us, copies showing. We even got a sworn testimony from one of Dizzy Gillespie's first cousins who said, yes, he lived here, his wife lived here, they played music in the basement and so on. And we got that, got it witnessed, sent it them. Then they couldn't find they couldn't find it, they lost it. So in other words, it's just been a battle back and forth with them. Then finally, we kept going, okay, well, here's the Ella Fitzgerald house. And we had stuff in her kitchen that she had worked where she had her famous songs engraved into the structure of the floor. And they still wouldn't listen to us. They were just totally ignoring us. So finally, we started coming to Historic Preservation, Historic Districts Council, and networking with a lot of the different organizations. And we learned that from speaking with you all that, well, pretty much what they said is welcome to the club. They said, I start listening to all your stories. And I said, one of the people who I was just speaking with from one of the organizations just from Manhattan told me, we have a problem. They find that, that what we're trying to landmark is not architecturally significant. And I said, oh, you too? I said, since when do they do that to Manhattan? I just thought they just did it to Queens. And then she said, no. She says, we're insulted because they don't find us architecturally significant. So I said, okay, we need to talk. So, you know, we got that. We understood that. But so that's what, in a nutshell, we are trying to promote the cultural significant aspect of our society, because we have in our area, in our community, we have homes of a lot of entertainers, and not just entertainers, just individuals of distinction. And we think that for the sake of history, for educators, for the children, they should know long after this area is no longer around or we're going on, that they should know who lived here. And we're hoping that one day they could stop, the children could stop here and say, oh, remember so-and-so used to live here? Or they tell me that so-and-so used to live here. So to that end, one of the people who lived in our community was a beloved author of the children's classic, Harold and the Purple Crayon. And we were so delighted when we found out that the author, Crockett Johnson, lived in our community, because we have all kinds of people there, and our research is telling us more and more. So we said, okay, well, let's get this house landmarked. So we found out when we were doing research, the house is owned by the Queens Library. And it coincidentally, first of all, we found out that it's next door to Queens Library. So we were letting the Queens Library know that we were trying to get the place landmarked. But then they said, oh, that's interesting, it's owned by us. And we said, really? So when did that happen? And they said, well, we want to expand. The Corona Library is not very big, and there are a lot of people in the community, and you know, we need more space. So I said, well, how do you propose to promote literacy by, you know, tearing down the home of a beloved children's author? They didn't really like that, but but the point is, hence, that's how the battle got started. So we have been reaching out to the community, and we're trying to garner attention. But what they want to do is, again, they want to tear down the home because they want to make more space. We're proposing that there are a lot of other ways that they can promote this. They can get the space without tearing down the house. We were thinking about making it into a children's reading museum, or the backyard into a children's reading garden. We had all these different ideas, but we were trying to get the president of the library, which is Dennis Walcott, to meet with us. Well, Dennis Walcott he's not the type of person, he tends to be a very dismissive person, and he was not agreeable to meeting with us until he read an article that was published about the campaign. And then all of a sudden, he said, oh, I think I have some time. to meet with you. So, but the meeting did not go very well because he was pretty much telling us, well, instead of him trying to, like us work together, he was very dismissive in his tone, and, he's saying that we need to just move on, and, he'll try to think about us in their plans.
Is he the president of the Corona Library?
No,
The Queen system.
He's the Queen system, the president. Right. And so what we've been doing is we have been trying to get support for this campaign. We already have engaged the community. We have some of the media who are aware of the campaign and the local Queens newspapers, but we're trying to spread it more. This is quite serious. This is time sensitive. We don't have a lot of time to work with because right now, I just got some correspondence from the Queens Library saying that in another month, they're having a hearing for their 2019 budget. And so what we wanted to do is we have this kind of heavy paper, but it tells you about the Harold's House campaign, and we're asking people to cut out the postcard that says, please save Harold's House. We have the addresses for Melinda Katz, who's the Queens Borough President, and for the Queens Library Board of Trustees. And we're asking people to, to participate in the campaign to save Harold's House by, just cutting this out and just, addressing it and just mailing it to them. Now, we made a certain amount of these, but you know how it is with nonprofits, they don't have a lot of money. And so some of you may already have some of these, but I wanted to give you the information because it's also on our website. So I'm going to put our website on the board. It's very, very easy, not as complicated as I name. You'll be able to go online and you can find out information about it if you Google us. And we are sheeps.org. So I'll just write it up here so you can see. If you can see, it's just CEEHPS.org. So that's our website. And also, I'm going to put down our email address. So if any of you if we run out of these, and I'm assuming that we probably will since it's not that many, you can also contact us. I'll put our contact information also on there, and we can give you information of where you can direct the correspondence to, the postcards. And so that is about the Harold's House campaign. So let me see. Oh, what else do I have here?
Can I ask whether
yes.
Any politicians from Queens, and I have been working for 39 years in Queens on landmarking, and it's painful, have any politicians stepped up to be supportive?
Well, we have reached out to a number of them. When we first started out, when we were in our infancy, we reached out to Congressman Joseph Crowley. And he said that he was going to work with us. Through his staff, he set up some meetings. Didn't really yield much.
What about city council? Because that becomes an important role, Queens City Council.
No. We've reached out to them, but we have not had any success. The closest, I recognize you, and as soon as right after her. Right after, I'm trying to think, John Liu? Is that his name? Am I right? There's a councilman in Queens and Flushing. I think we reached out to him. Peter Koo. Okay, thank you. I reached out, we had, as a society, we reached out to him probably, maybe, I guess in 2000. This isn't about the campaign. This was just in the landmarking in general, what we were doing. And we had reached out to him. But, and as far as Crowley, it's with the landmarking in general. We had reached out to them. And with Koo, he wanted to know about what we were doing. And at the time, I think the city council was seeing a lot of preservationists and giving them an opportunity to speak. But for some reason, that never happened, and I don't know why. They said that the session went too long or something. So they had all these angry preservationists that were standing out waiting and waiting and waiting. And whoever we sent was so livid. He got so angry. He just started firing off letters to him and everything. So nothing really, that didn't really happen. Nothing happened with Crowley. Crowley said, well, of course we know of the jazz greats that live there, and I'm certainly a fan of them, but nothing ever happened. That was where that went. With Koo, he just said, keep me in the loop, but he gave us the information with, like I said, the city council, and then nothing ever happened with that. Jeffrey, I see you. I wanted to just address her. So we're definitely open to suggestions. And if you have any insight into that, we certainly would love to hear. Yes?
Is the interior of the house pretty much intact to the time when the author was living there?
I'm
asking because you might want to have the State Historic Preservation Office look at the house and make a determination of whether it's National Register eligible, because even if you can't get it listed on the register because the owner is opposed, if it's listed, if it's eligible, then it's going to trigger review processes and may tie up money.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've got a government agency, so they're going to have to go through the ULEP process. Was there a review already?
No.
But the first question is the house intact inside?
And
or close?
I'm glad that you raised that question, because I have not been inside. I don't think any of us, there is, as far as we know, that there's a family that lives in the house. It's being rented out.
Yeah.
So I haven't been inside the house, so I'm not really sure of that. But what is the name of that process that you said, something? ULER? URP, okay.
Simeon will tell you all about it.
It's the Uniform Land Use Review process.
Uh-huh. Okay. That's something that's worthwhile looking in, that we have to, I mean, we're learning as we go along. Sure, Mr. Allen.
Hey, one of the things that I'm peripherally involved with is the cultural landmark Tin Pan Alley.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who are working with us on that have made contact with organizations that share the same interest in the cultural landmark. So songwriting associations, music publishers, for example, for Tin Pan Alley. But for you,
Mm-hmm.
people who give out the Newbery Award, for example, for
Oh.
children's literature.
Uh-huh.
Would it be worth contacting them?
Uh-huh.
I'm just thinking that there are these societies that share our interest
Mm-hmm.
in cultural landmarks, and with a cultural landmark, much more so I think than an architectural one.
Mm-hmm.
You really need some big guns to back your
Yes.
up.
Uh-huh.
So that's a suggestion.
That's it.
Caldecott Society is a group that
That's it,
gives
thanks.
money for, it gives awards for the best illustrated children's book of the year in different categories. But also the school system, children who are reading in kindergarten, who are being read to about Harold and the Purple Crayon and his other books. I think that there's a groundswell of youngsters and teachers is important. That's totally separate from the politics. The politics is key, but It's just also good peripheral support when you, especially a library, when you get library users
Right.
outside the library, get people to sign your postcard.
Well, that is one thing that we have done. We have been involved with the schools. We have, as part of the campaign, one of the things we've done is we've had people take pictures of their children from all over the country reading Harold and the Purple Crayon, you know, like all different ethnicities. So in some cases, the parents are reading to the children. Sometimes the brothers and sisters are reading to each other. Sometimes they're in their little pajamas, you know, with their feet in them, you know. So it's like raising. And we do have some local schools that when the teachers found out, they went ballistic. They said, "What? I can't believe, what?" And the kids start writing letters, "Please do not, you know, don't tear down Harold's house." And we had some postcards written with children like in a costume of a crayon, a purple crayon, you know, like saying, "Please don't, you know, we're so sad, please don't tear down Harold's house." And I'm glad you brought that up because one of the teachers is so passionate about that. We have a few teachers, but one of them is really, really passionate about it. And she took her students and they wrote letters and they wanted to hand deliver them to the Board of Trustees in person. Well, she's writing us and she's saying, "I'm upset because they won't see us." You know, so this is the type of, you know, this is what we're up against. But I'm noting all these suggestions because they're excellent and yes, Jeff.
One of the most unfortunate aspects of dealing with the Queen's Library, and I did the history of the Queen's Library, and its history is a marvelously inclusive, energetic, outreach-oriented, community-serving institution, and now it is a corrupt version of itself, because over the years it has become the sort of sandbox in which you place political appointees while they're waiting to do something else. Mm-hmm. And it is notorious for having members like finding jobs for political patronage while you're waiting to run for something else and the like. The ultimate, of course, is that you know, you will get appeals from the Queen's Library Foundation, mm-hmm. because they need money for books for the children. Mm-hmm. Don't you want to give books to the children? It's like, yes, I do. The executive director of the Queen's Library Foundation is Diana Chapin. Diana Chapin is a sitting member of the Landmarks Preservation Commission. In other words, someone on the Landmarks Preservation Commission, a commissioner, is making a decision on behalf of the institution not to designate this building. In other words, it's a form of, I don't know, conflict of interest is probably the polite word. Yes. So it's just, number one, not surprising. Mm-hmm. That you're running up against a brick wall, but two, the whole sort of thinking in Queens, and there are so many examples of this, is we want to build something new so that people will know they're getting something for their money, mm-hmm. and preserving something that's old is not the way to do it, which is why they tore down the Elmhurst Library, one of the Carnegie libraries from 1906, instead of building around it and integrating the historic structure within, which is what they would have done in Brooklyn, and it's what they would have done in Manhattan, right. And it's what they would have done in the Bronx, mm-hmm. and it's what they did do in Staten Island, but not in Queens. In Queens, it's tear down, build new, because our people like shiny new things, and they're not sophisticated enough like those people in Brooklyn. So that's What's your solution, Deborah?
Well, like I'm just listening to you and my mind is saying, what? I mean, because I knew, like the patronage part, I definitely says that's not really a surprise. But what you said about Diane Chapin,
Yes.
that I didn't know.
You should be able to go to her. She didn't turn down anything, right?
I know, she
She's
obviously, this never came before her, but as a sitting commissioner.
What is her title?
She did.
What is her title?
She's executive director of the Queens Library Foundation, which is their fundraising arm.
Which you need to go to her for sure.
Directly.
Okay.
And not assume that don't know that she's on the commission. Don't. I mean, just go to her in that role. And I really wonder if it should be an appointment that includes a group of school children. What you want is more coverage, and school children help with coverage. And if you're really lucky the way we were, you would have somebody who tries to kill themselves during a landmarking, which is what we faced in Queens. Yes, Donald Manis.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Suicide because we were trying to landmark something, and then he was in the hospital.
Yes.
Well, I do know that he committed suicide, but was it really over that?
He was involved in all kinds of, in all kinds of scandals that
Oh, yeah.
involved Citibank, and the building was owned by Citibank, and he was terrified that we were uncovering all of this, even though we weren't.
Right.
So, Queens, yeah.
Moving aside from suicides,
Suicide, yeah.
at a couple of years ago,
Mhm.
at the Ollie Stalker's home in the Lower East Side,
Mhm.
one of the things that the Friends of the Lower East Side, which Mitchell is a member of, were working on, was they got they got children. Remember when you got the children to show up with Margaret Chin and take? Oh, okay. There was
Don't worry.
there was a concern about the local council person who was not very good on preservation issues, and this was very complicated. It's a tall building that was filled with seniors. There was a lot of corruption around it, a lot. But they wished to they were trying to save the building at the very least, and the council person was like, I'm not really sure. I don't feel comfortable about this. And Joyce Mendelson got a bunch of school children there and arranged also for the council person, we're going to have a whole bunch of kids there. You can't not show up. And she did, actually, and they got her on the record as supporting it. Yeah.
I mean, it's still
That
had
wasn't
a
the
lot
magic
of
bullet,
corruption.
but it was a...
Yeah, it's hard, slow, endless, that's grassroots, and, but I think you're really far along already, and I just, I think it's terrific. There are some book fairs coming up in New York City very soon. I think that somebody should be coming to the book fair.
Oh yeah, that's great.
100 billion postcards. Every book person practically sells children's books, and they're thousands of dollars very often because they're first editions. And I think it's kind of got to reach out the way that Dan was saying with the Tin Pan Alley music. Really need to keep spreading and spreading. It's huge work. I mean, I don't know how to tell you.
Well, thank you for all of that, because that was one of the things that we were trying to do, because we were trying to, reach out to different societies that deal, with children's authors and stuff. But I think that this information, that was something that we didn't have. And what the idea about getting the children, we already have the children. They're looking. Because they were trying to, the library wouldn't see them. We just need to know if we can maybe get them to go to the executive director, from what we're hearing of the Queens, the Queens Library Foundation, and tell them to go there. Then, because the kids are ready to go. The teacher, and she's trying to take them. and it's local. So that was big. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. Yes?
The fact that there's a family living in the house
Mm-hmm.
is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Have you reached out to them at all?
No, we have not done that yet.
Well, you might want to do that. You might be able to get them on your side.
Okay.
Find out if they
Because
have a lease.
while there's somebody living in the house,
Mhm.
number one, it's better protected than if it was
Yeah.
empty. And number two, if the library gets rid of them, it's bad press for the library that this family is losing their home. Also, the Municipal Archives has photographs of most of the buildings in New York City from around 1939, 1940.
Mm-hmm.
And if you could put a photograph of the house as it looked back then
Mm-hmm.
next to the photograph of how it looks now, people will see a photograph that's more sort of inspirational in regard to the historical appearance of the house and what the library could do to return its appearance to a more historical one. And that would help everybody as an inspiration.
That's a good idea too.
What period did he?
Oh, let me see. He went to Newtown. Let me see. He was born in 1912. Let me see. He was in 1910. He was. I want to say like around the 1920-ish, 20s, 30s. I have to double check.
That's probably when the book would have been published.
Mm-mm.
First.
Mm-mm.
Not sure.
No, it was first published in 1955.
Oh, that one is that late?
Yeah.
Wow.
No.
No.
No, he was not.
It's his childhood home.
Yes, it's his childhood home. Yeah. Yeah.
But also, what would really be nice is for the organization, your organization, to have a list of important people who are in the area. Because you mentioned one or two,
Mhm.
but then you want to say, well, who else? Because it's sort of it's very special to pull together the significant individuals
Mhm.
as not part of the house effort, but as part of the broader effort.
Well, what we have here, I'm glad you said that. It reminded me, we have some, and I'm going to pass this, I'm going to pass some of these around. You can take, there are a few of them for, I'll just pass them on this side. We have, what I'm passing around is a sheet that was prepared, and it has, some of you may have seen this, so, you can just pass it around. But it has the the individuals of distinction who have lived in the community. And so that speaks to your question of like the significant and the notable celebrities. And some of them are, very renowned, for their music or, their cultural contributions. But there's one in particular who's not so well known that we're trying to highlight. And it's a scientist, African-American woman. Her name was Dr. Marie Maynard Daly. And she was the first African-American woman in the United States to get a PhD in chemistry. She was born in Corona. She lived in Corona. She went to school. She went to Queens College, NYU, and Columbia. And, we want that. That's what the cultural significance is. I mean, to, some academics and scholars today, it might not seem like it's a big deal, but I assure you during the time when she lived with what she was going through, and she wasn't from a particularly affluent family, but just the fact that she pushed hard to do that, I mean, it's worth noting, and we want to preserve that. Okay. So any other questions? Yes.
I was gonna say, it sounds like a big piece of this is a notion of placemaking
Mhm.
and community pride and heritage. And it seems that there should be a winning strategy for the library, however they move forward, to want that association.
Mhm.
Even if you don't win on the house, there's got to be a naming opportunity or Harold's Purple Crayon Children's Reading Room, or something that helps accomplish some of those goals.
Right.
And I'm just putting it out there as how you start to sort of get them to have some ownership in the notion of place.
And I was going to say,
Structure, or just or something about author and connection with the story.
So the organization Place Matters does that specifically, and that would be wonderful to connect with independently of the Landmarks Commission.
yeah, we have them. I have them on my list. I did. I connected with somebody, and they're on there. I was going to ask you before what you meant when you said by place, but then when you put that in context.
Because it may be, this is terrible. If the house isn't there, that library needs to celebrate that space and that author
Mhm.
in a significant way. And there are multiple ways to do that.
Right.
Even if it's not, and they just got to get on. They've got to get on the bandwagon.
And that was the whole point in it, that there are a lot of ways that they can still do it and, promote, and this way they're able to promote literacy at the same time as preserving that. They don't just have to just totally be dismissive and say, no, you're not worth my time. I don't want to hear about it. You're not worth my time. Yes.
There's a real difference between the way the library interacts with the community today than the way the library interacted a couple of generations ago. Because in the late 60s, the Corona community demanded the Langston Hughes Library. And
Right.
the library responded by creating a public library branch that was specifically for African American culture and
Yes.
literature and the West. So
Mhm.
there was an interaction between the community and what the community wanted and the responsiveness of the institution, and it turned out to be a winning combination.
Mhm.
Now you have an institution that more and more knows what the community wants and knows better than to listen to the community, because you're just little people and should appreciate what the library does for you. And I think that's a real shame, because it's patronizing to the community by saying, yeah, Harold and the Purple Crayon, well, we didn't think of that, so we're going to dismiss it.
Mhm. Well, you're absolutely right about that.
Don't you think it's more than just the Queen's Library? Look at what's going on in Manhattan and Brooklyn. I mean, we're really
Yeah, but we're picking on the Queen's Library.
It's pretty pervasive when you have the public library on 42nd Street deciding it'll put in a cafe and pull out reading rooms.
Yeah.
The Donnell Library, ruined, gone. It's ridiculous now. We're losing things all over when developers say, I'm going to take over that space and I'll give you a library in the basement.
Yeah.
Libraries are under attack as far as I can see.
Well,
By the libraries themselves. I mean, the thing that the Brooklyn Public Library, if you look at the board of the Brooklyn Public Library, the board of trustees of the Brooklyn Public Library is almost entirely big real estate and Goldman Sachs, or the equivalent.
really.
Plus, they have one librarian on the board of the Queensboro Public Library as of a year ago. She got her library degree in like 1958. So, I mean, if you want to do the math, that's the librarian voice on the Brooklyn Public Library. And what they're doing is looking at library branches as underutilized real estate and seeing how they can reposition library buildings that are small and not good enough for the community, and then redevelop them. And the Donnell Library becomes the pattern, which is you put the library in the basement. It's, quote, state of the art, smaller, but you'll like it, it's better. And that's what the Brooklyn Library is doing, because they don't have enough funds to run the libraries, and it's a very cynical pattern. And it's only a matter of time before Queens does the same thing. So it's almost like the three library systems against the citizens of New York who love their library.
And that, someone in another group just mentioned, but I know we're going to be wrapping up, to just finally finish this up. When this is happening, she's saying, well, I said, we're trying to, preserve that the library is not listening, that, Walcott's not listening, we can't get the attention of the Board of Trustees. And then she says, well, who owns the library? She says, who owns the library? So that kind of like brought it, back into focus for us. And I think that speaks to what you were saying, Jeff. There was a time when the library was responsive to the needs of the community for, the things that they wanted, that the community wanted to see in their library. And now we're getting a lot of complaints that it's not that way. And even in that particular library, it's losing its significance. That what the people fought for to get, now it's withering away. So at any rate, there are a lot of wonderful suggestions on the board, and I tell you, I'm going to make sure I write every one of them down because they're going to help us a lot. I thank you so much for any other? I want to thank you so much for your time and coming. Thank you.
Is there a petition?
Actually, if they're, right now, we don't have, but you know what? If you go to our website, we're going to probably have some, cheaps.org. If you make note of it, we're going to probably make sure we have something like that. And if you haven't done so already, and if you'd like to, like I said, you can get a postcard and from here and just cut it out and mail it to the elected, to the Queens Library. The address is here. Thank you so much.